Before we start the meeting, for those of you who are here on item number 6, I'm actually going to take that off the agenda and hear that at a later date. But if you want to speak on it today, you can fill out a speaker card and speak at public comment.
To you then. Those are for number
Okay.
6.
And we'll begin the actual meeting in a couple of minutes, or shortly. Oh, now. Okay. So in any case, welcome to the regular board meeting for the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, August the 6th. And can Michael Mangini please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Pine.
Here.
Supervisor Groom.
Present.
Supervisor Slocum.
Here.
Supervisor Tissier. Here. President Horsley.
Here. It's now time for public comment. As I said, it turns out item number 6, having to do with the fees, having met with Emerald Hills Homeowners Group, it turns out that there was apparently some commitment made to them to meet with them before we actually embarked on changing our fee structure. So I will convene a meeting with them at a later point. So in any case, the first person for public comment is Michael Mangini, followed by Nancy Mangini.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Michael Mangini, and I'm president of the Emerald Hills Homeowners Association, and I'd like to thank Supervisor Horsley for pulling this item from the agenda. As he mentioned, our community is very much interested in the impact that this would have on our community as well as all the unincorporated communities, and would like an opportunity to meet with a committee of the board to discuss these issues and seek solutions to them other than just blanket increases all over the place. So again, I thank you all for our attention, and we'll look forward to scheduling a meeting with you. And I can pledge that our association will work with you to make sure the word gets out so our individual members of our community can participate in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangini. Nancy Mangini, followed by Maria Rutenberg.
Good morning. I'd like to add my thanks for Supervisor Horsley for hearing our concerns about this being a little bit precipitous and coming to a vote and taking the extra time to consider the ramifications. I'd also like you to understand that the Emerald Hills Community Coalition, which is a different organization from the Homeowners Association, even though we're married, it's different organizations. Okay. We are most interested in participating as well, and we do have a quite active membership. We would like to bring solutions to the table that include outsourcing the entire function of the Building and Planning Department, as several other municipalities and communities in the Bay Area, including some in San Mateo County, have done to their fiscal benefit. Millbrae, Half Moon Bay, both have contracts with private organizations to do this for less than half of what San Mateo County budget is required to support. So we'd like to explore that possibility during these meetings, and we can bring a wealth of expertise and professionals to those meetings. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Mangini. Maria Rutenberg, followed by Chuck Henderson.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Maria Rutenberg. I am a homeowner in Emerald Hills. I also represent an organization called Homeowners United for Planning and Building Reform. Thank you very much for pulling this item from my agenda. I would like to say that this item is premature for voting. No community input was solicited. Just wanted to give you one example. I recently went through building and planning process in the county. I did very small addition to my house, adding a garage and 70 square feet of the living space. The total price tag at the county was $6,276. What I did the next day, I went to Redwood City, showed them my plans, and they told me how much that would be in their city. It would be $1,400. So the difference is 4.5 times of what you get in the county versus the same service in Redwood City, and that's just not fair. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would really look forward to meetings with the Building and Planning Department and how we can all solve this problem.
Thank you, Ms. Rudenberg. Chuck Henderson, followed by Beverly Beasley Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Chuck Henderson. I've been a San Mateo County resident since 1988. I'm here in opposition to the timber harvest permit review fee, specifically. My family's been in forestry since 1894. Our forests are all certified by the Forest Stewardship Council as complying with the strictest environmental standards. I'm a member of the Forest Landowners of California, CalForest, and the National Alliance of Forest Owners. I'm also a volunteer at the Peninsula Open Space Trust, so my roots in the issue of proper land stewardship are deep. The timber harvest plans we submit in California are already subject to intensive and long multi-agency reviews under the Forest Practice Rules and the Environmental Quality Act by at least the following state agencies: CAL FIRE, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the Departments of Mines and Geology. Our plans are based on a 100-year sustained yield plan, which has been reviewed by these same agencies. What aspect of the THP the county is specifically intending to review is unknown to me at this time. In any case, we have a lot of folks looking over our shoulders, and much more than any other agricultural product that I'm aware of. I was part of the team that helped pass AB 1492 last year, and you'll hear more about that, I'm sure, at a later time. The point I want to make is that the legislation was a culmination of a long and difficult negotiation between many stakeholders and forest owners, environmental concerns, state and local agencies. A grand bargain of sorts was reached to provide oversight and ensure environmental standards are being met while also helping to ease the financial time burden on landowners. It's the first time in 10 years that anything was accomplished on the forestry front in any inclusive and cooperative way. This fee runs counter to the agreement and adds cost and complexity to an already difficult situation. We own timberland in 6 counties, so you can imagine what this would be to my family. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Beverly Beasley Johnson, followed by Martin Fox.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Holland, and Mr. Thompson. Thank you.
He needs a name tag up
That's
there.
right, that's right. There's no name up there. And I know Lee, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm here for a very different reason this morning, and that is to introduce the healthcare reform team to the board and to introduce the board to our team, who I'll have stand at the end of my comments. We are 55 days away from the start of the open enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act, and the Human Services Agency is working hard to prepare for implementation. A critical component of being successful in our implementation is to have the right people who have excellent customer service skills and experience. I'm pleased to announce that we've hired 21 of the best and the brightest to be a part of our contact center. Their role is to support some of our residents who may have never engaged with county government for services in the past. I'm pleased to report that we picked candidates who possess excellent customer service skills. They come from the public and private sector, and they're very excited about the opportunity to be a part of history. They will continue their training over the next few weeks, and they'll be joining our other benefits analysts to enroll residents in health insurance and also screen for any other eligible service, such as CalFresh, formerly known as the food stamp program. Our goal is to put San Mateo on the map as the healthiest county in the state, and with your continued support and this extraordinary team that we've been able to put into place, I believe that we're on the road to doing that. I'd like to invite the team to stand up. And we express our sincere appreciation to the board and to the county manager's office for your support as we prepare for this huge endeavor.
Beverly, how many people do you think will end up signing up for Cal or Medi-Cal?
We believe that we have the opportunity to touch at least another 18,000 or so Medi-Cal residents. And so we believe that there are 80,000 residents that may be eligible for some other form of health coverage. And so we have a huge task. We'll be able to enroll not only in Medi-Cal, but the other health coverage opportunities as well. And of course, there is a state covered California system who will also be conducting enrollment. But we will be a critical part of that process.
Well, welcome to the county, and you have your work cut out for you. So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Beverly. Thank all of you. And it's the incredible Mr. Martin Fox.
Good morning, President
Good morning.
Horsley, honorable members of the board, especially my fellow veterans, Mr. Slocum and Mr. Maltby. Thank you for your service to the county. Please have some mercy on family members of persons living with mental illness that lack the insight needed to seek treatment voluntarily, and take advantage of the opportunity to minimize the public health and safety risk created by the mental health disaster resulting from the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act by voting to implement Laura's Law. Adoption of policies and procedures without support of scientific evidence of usefulness and safety entails risk. That risk may be reasonable when social science and medicine do not provide an example that explains their usefulness and safety. That risk, however, is unreasonable when the United States Department of Justice finds assisted outpatient treatment is effective, efficient, and economical, and has been adopted in 45 states and 3 California counties. The FAST program that became effective May 1st and the early review of mentally ill persons in jail for alternative dispositions proposals made on July 23rd are just parts of a pre-plea mental health diversion program that was eliminated by the presiding judge in 2006, and I realize you're picking up the pieces. Laura's Law has the benefit of scientific evidence of effectiveness, efficiency, and economy. The early review of jail inmates living with mental illness, expanding SMART, creating FAST teams, and respite centers do not have the benefit of scientific evidence of usefulness. And judging from the equivocal nature of the testimony at the last meeting, it has very qualified support. Please take the opportunity that the Housing, Health, and Human Services Standing Committee missed to minimize the risk created by the LPS Act on October 18th, 2011, and give persons living with mental illness who do not believe they are sick an opportunity to recover by voting to implement Laura's Law.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. There's one last public speaker, Eric Moore.
I'm sorry there was a bit of a crowd out there this morning.
Yeah.
To make it in the door. I'm here from the Central Coast Forest Association. We have members in this county. I wanted to speak to, I believe it's agenda item number 6, THP fees, on timber harvest fees. We are opposed. This is something the county does voluntarily. They're not required to participate in this. There is another mechanism where you can, through a penny a board foot, the AB 1492, the penny a board foot tax, which does allow fees for the state to pay fees for this, which we would really like if this county did, because it goes forward to review every year. And under that review, they look for things like duplicative efforts from government agencies. So that would probably be the way to go. They would probably shut it down as being duplicative because that's what it is. We all follow the rules. The state enforces them. There's a ton of state agencies that enforce them. And usually the county people are just kind of along for the ride. It is a duplication of effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. It's now time for to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda. And I understand we're going to move item number 14 to September 10th.
Thank you. Yes.
And we will be continuing item number 6. Any other?
With those changes, I'll move to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the first presentation is a presentation of commendation of the San Mateo County employees graduates of the Change Agent Program's Leadership Fellowship at the University of California, San Francisco Center for Health Professionals. Supervisor Tessier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, we're pleased to have with us a distinguished group of medical professionals who recently graduated from the Change Agent Program's Leadership Fellowship at the University of California, San Francisco. It's the Center for Public Health Professionals. The Change Agent Program aims to foster leadership and growth among San Francisco Bay Area healthcare workers, and these health professionals are joining us today. Each one of them went through a competitive application process and then were accepted to the program and had to commit to an 18-month learning, self-study, and project activity while maintaining their current employment. Each of these fellows have committed to initiating and implementing an improvement project to better patient outcomes and cost reductions. To these fellows and San Mateo County and its health system, we will benefit greatly from your project and your commitment to your public service. And as a small token of our appreciation here at the board, we'd like to present the 5 of you with certificates of commendation from our board. So I'm going to step up to that microphone there and read out these individuals who have put a lot of time and effort to help improve our healthcare system here in San Mateo County. So when I call your name, if you'll join me. The first one is Shay Anderson. The second one is Jenna Belinsky. The next one is Dr. Jonathan Lee. The next one is Rita Muganam. And then the last one is Dr. Alpa Sangavi. Oh, we got a shy bunch. They spent 18 months studying and learning and doing projects, so they're too shy to tell us all about your work. It's okay. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. The next is a presentation and commendation to the first responders and San Mateo County employees who were instrumental in the emergency response of the airline crash at San Francisco International Airport on Saturday, July 6, 2013. This is from both Supervisor Tessier and myself.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, President Horsley and myself, and actually the entire board, would like to commend the agencies that came to the aid of the passengers and crew of Asiana Airlines, the jet that crashed upon landing at San Francisco International Airport on July 6, 2013. I would also like to remember and honor the lives of the 3 people who lost their lives in the tragic accident. The agencies here today demonstrate bravery and distinction in their response. Within 2 minutes of the crash, first responders were on the scene, rescuing passengers and putting out the fire, thanks in part to the coordination of the Office of Public Safety Communications. Firefighters ran up an emergency escape chute into the burning aircraft to cut passengers loose from their seatbelts and clear luggage from the aisles. Police officers secured the scene. 40 to 50 ambulances, including AMR and Bayshore response, were sent to the crash site, some leaving the scene filled with up to 5 critically injured people so the victims would arrive quickly to the hospital. Eden Hospital in Hayward received 2 patients via helicopter in their trauma unit. Red Cross arrived to provide relief to those affected. In the days following, Ted's Pharmacy in the city of San Mateo helped victims receive medication that was lost in the crash. There are many more stories and agencies today that demonstrate excellence. The cooperation between Bay Area agencies was stellar. Today, there are representatives from hospitals from San Francisco General to Stanford, Mills, and Kaiser, Redwood City, who treated our patients. The residents of San Mateo County and the entire San Francisco Bay Area are fortunate to have such outstanding public safety and first responder agencies. And as a token of our appreciation, our board would like to recognize and commend many of the agencies. We hope we got you all, and I know many of you are here. So what I'd like to do is ask my colleagues to join me at the podium, and we're going to call out the different agencies and ask for a representative of each of the agencies to please step forward so we can commend you with these commendations.
Okay.
So if you all join me.
Sure.
The first agency is American Medical Response. And if you wouldn't mind staying up here. The second agency is Bayshore Ambulance. The next is our own San Mateo County Coroner, Robert Folkoff. The next, a representative from Eden Hospital. Someone get over here. Oh, okay. Hopefully they're not stuck on the bridge there. A representative for the San Mateo County Fire Chiefs Association. See Ron Myers in the back there too from Daly City. Nice drive down here, huh? A representative from our San Mateo County Health System. Wow, Louise Rogers. Okay, a representative from the Hospital Consortium of San Mateo County. Wow. Francine. And a representative from Kaiser Hospital in Redwood City. Mills Peninsula Medical Center. The San Mateo County Office of Emergency Services. The San Mateo County Office of Public Safety Communications. The San Mateo County Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. All right. San Mateo County Pre-Hospital Emergency Services Group. The Red Cross. San Bruno Fire Department. Sequoia Hospital. San Francisco General Hospital. San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. San Mateo County Medical Center. Okay. South San Francisco Fire Department. Stanford Medical Center. And last but not least, Ted's Village Pharmacy. Maybe if you can all kind of scoot in, we'll all get in this together and say a big thank you. Again, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just make a couple of quick comments on it. And I think folks saw how many different people are involved in that case, and it's really remarkable how efficient and effective the response was. And it really has to do with the fact that they work together and they train together so often. And, you know, if it weren't for that, when you're involved in some kind of a crisis that really tests you, then we always have to rely on your past training and your coordination and your relationships with others. And so I think the fact that there's so many agencies that participated so effectively, it shows that our system actually works quite well and quite robust. And the people that we have, besides the fact that they're all union members, really have done a fabulous job for in that really chaotic, potentially chaotic and tragic situation. So thanks for your service.
Thank you.
You sort of forget how important training really is. And, you know, during in a crisis, when things go to heck, what you always have to rely on is your past training. So it goes to show you that training is an investment well worthwhile putting money and time into it. Next is presentation of San Mateo County Arts Commission Supervisor Carol Groom.
Thank you, Mr. President. You might recall a few meetings ago, we talked about the Art Commission and how it was proceeding along following its strategic plan. So several members of the Arts Commission are here today under the leadership of the chair, Robin Rodricks, and they have a report to give to us. Robin?
Thank you, Supervisor Groom, and good morning, supervisors. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Rodricks. I'm chair of the San Mateo County Arts Commission. And joining me today, unfortunately, Commissioners Mulliken and Chu could not be here today, but joining me, I have our vice chair from District 3, Cheryl Swan, and from District 5, after 5.5 years, Lisa Steele is leaving us.
Oh, no.
She is moving out of the county. Go figure.
Yeah.
So we want to take this opportunity to thank Lisa for all of your work. Lisa is really a can-do person, get the job done, and we appreciate her sense of humor. We are certainly going to miss you, but we wish you the best. And we look forward to welcoming in September a new arts commissioner from District 5. So I know that in your agenda packet today, you have received our 2012-2013 wrap-up report. And we'd like to share with you today some highlights of that. And as Supervisor Groom said, the big task this last year was to implement our newly adopted strategic plan. And the first steps were to create a policy statement and then to initiate a Grants for the Arts program, for which we contracted with a grants program manager, Esther Malou, and we did issue a first round of grants. We're very pleased with the progress already on the grants program. And I'll give you a little background before I tell you the results. The grants program, it consists of two portfolios. The first portfolio is for arts education, which is K-12 arts funding, as well as for arts organizations, a portfolio for technical and program or project grants. And what we did was, let me back up one second. So we, in January, hired a grants manager, and we received 5 grant proposals, which were reviewed and given due diligence by our grants program manager, who then convened a impartial panel. By impartial, I mean members from outside of San Mateo County, members of executives from arts organizations and arts education forums. And they reviewed all 5 grant proposals with our grants manager. They recommended, they ranked and then recommended funding amounts for each. And grants were then awarded to the 5 organizations, which are Music at Cole Mansion, which is a wonderful chamber music program in Burlingame. They received $7,000. They do a lot of family programming, free and low cost programming, in addition to the regular concert series. So they received $7,000. Menlo Ballet is a new ballet company in Menlo Park. They received a grant for $3,000 in support of a new production of the ballet Bolero. And then the terrific Sanchez Arts Center in Pacifica. It's a great community arts center. They received a grant for $5,000 for a new program they're implementing called Exhibit and Engage, which is free exhibits, lectures, and community arts activities. Then Masterworks Chorale is an auditioned chorus of 85 singers from throughout San Mateo County, and they received a grant for $4,500 in support of their 50th anniversary season, which they're just about to start. And then sort of the big winner was the Mid-Peninsula Boys and Girls Club. They have a terrific after-school and summer arts education program. They requested a grant of $2,000, which was fully awarded to them. And we're really pleased. That's a total of $21,500 that we granted out. These organizations are required in their grant agreement to report back to the commission at the end of the funding cycle, and we will, of course, then pass that report on to the county, to the supervisors. So in addition, for arts education, in January, when we began the grants program, Commissioners Swan and Karen Chu met with the County Office of Education, Dick Spearson, and he suggested that, as it was already sort of halfway through January at that point, and really only 5 months left in the school year and fiscal year for that matter, that the most expedient way for us, the commission, to sort of get our feet wet in funding for arts education would be with direct micro grants to arts educators. So Mr. Spearson worked with our grant program manager, Esther, and they created a terrific streamlined application process for the teachers. They distributed it throughout the county. 26 teachers then submitted grant requests. All 26 received the micro grants of $50 in April. And Mr. Spearson and our grants manager were so pleased with the way the process worked and the teachers and the results that they are, Mr. Spearson and the grants manager are recommending to the commission that in this new fiscal year, we increase that micro grant to $100. So we're real pleased to say that a total of $22,800 was granted out. And I would like to share with you Aragon High School art instructor Barbara Hughes received a micro grant this last spring. She did her class on three-dimensional art. On the left there, you have Rachel Oatman, a ceramic student there. And here are some other students hard at work. You can see she had them doing sculpture, ceramics, and tile mosaics. There they are hard at work. And here are some finished pieces. I really like the hands. When you see the hand in person, it's really technically well executed. And I love the Rainbow Lady. I've nicknamed her Rainbow Lady there. And so that is some samples of Mrs. Hughes from Aragon High, her students. Amazing what you can do with a small amount of money for art supplies. But also additionally, I know as you do your business going up and down the hall, just outside the sheriff's office door is the Caldwell Gallery, and there is another exhibition right now that I encourage you all to go take a look at. That is artwork from students, from other teachers who received our microgrants. So it's a great program. We're real pleased with the progress. And speaking of galleries outside, one last thing about the grants program before I move on. We have further exciting news in the grants program. We have been approached by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation to become what they term an intermediary partner, whereby they will match dollar for dollar every dollar that we grant out. Wow. Basically what that means is we're doing the legwork. We take the applications in, screen them, do the due diligence on the financials and the organization, give it to a panel for review, and make the grants they will match. So for this new fiscal year, we're just starting. We have budgeted $22,000 to grant out. With a match from Hewlett, that becomes $44,000, which is a significant chunk of money. And we submitted the paperwork to Hewlett, in fact, just on July 26th, a week or so ago. And we are told by them that they convene to review all their paperwork in September, that we will be given formal notification, official notification in in October, with the funds coming in November. So we are really pleased because a partnership with the stature of Hewlett really is a major step that should help us secure additional funding from other sources, which just so happens to be a key task on the to-do list in next year for the strategic plan and implementation of the strategic plan. So we're very pleased and honored to partner with Hewlett. And I'd like to thank Supervisor Groom and Supervisor Slocum for attending our first meeting with the Hewlett family back in March, I believe it was. So thank you very much for that. And so We also, of course, at the Arts Commission, we manage the county's galleries. And for those who may not be familiar with the county galleries, we have three. In 555 County Center, there's the Rotunda where we have exhibits of three-dimensional art. The Caldwell Gallery, of course, is just outside, and downstairs is the Community Gallery. And really, the county galleries for us, it's a vehicle to raise the commission's visibility, but really mostly to highlight our great local artists. And we, unfortunately, our gallery curator, Teresa Silvestri, couldn't be here today, but she has done an incredible job of ramping up activity in the galleries. For example, in the last 18 months, 19 pieces that were on exhibit have been sold. And that makes us a sought-after venue for local artists who want to display their work. Additionally, Teresa, I think is going on 3 years now, has assisted the Commission on Disabilities with their annual art show and fundraiser. And she also organizes the March-April Women's Show, which is an exhibition that is co-sponsored by the Arts Commission and the Commission on the Status of Women. And we'd like to thank Supervisor Groom for handing out the awards, presenting awards in April at our reception. So a lot of activity going on in those galleries these days. And I have brought, and I'm going to leave with Judah Tomasoff. We've been getting quite a bit of press. Very recently, 2 articles on the exhibits in the galleries, one from the San Jose Mercury News and one from the San Mateo Daily Journal. So a lot of fun things happening in the galleries. And in other news, once again, I think for like 10 or 12 years, we have been presenting awards at the June San Mateo County Fair. This year we gave out in various categories of art 12 awards. We also now have Commissioner Donald Mulliken, Arts Commissioner Donald Mulliken, assigned a seat on the, he volunteered and was assigned a seat on the newly formed Poet Laureate Committee. And as we speak, literally as we speak, a woman's hard at work on this, final tweaks are being given to a new logo, one for the Arts Commission and one for the new grants program. And we will be sharing that with you in a matter of, I'm thinking, less than a week. We will be unveiling the new logos. Lastly, and this was just a lot of fun, we partnered with the California State Summer School for the Arts. Briefly, that is, and that was to encourage students throughout San Mateo County to apply to this program. And briefly, this is a really prestigious, intensive program. It's a month-long residency for high school students held every summer at the California Institute for the Arts in Valencia, called CalArts. That's the nickname. And they receive in-depth college-level training in their chosen discipline from professors and professionals from around the country who come to teach them. And it covers visual and performing arts, as well as literary arts, poetry, creative writing, and media arts such as animation. And 20 students were selected and are now currently down at CalArts. And just before they began the program on down at CalArts on July 13th, just a few days before, on July 8th, we held a reception for them at Draper University in San Mateo, where Mrs. Draper, Melissa Draper, happens to be president of the California State Summer School for the Arts Foundation. So she attended, of course, and helped us present scholar medals to these high school students. And here we all are. You can see me and Commissioner Chu on the far right. And second from the end at the left is Melissa Draper. And you know you're throwing a good party when they don't want to leave. This was, and I'm showing you my cheesy iPhone photos. I just snapped these on the spur of the moment because I was really gratified that when the reception was over and Karen Chu and I were trying to clean up the food and get out of there so that Mrs. Draper could go home, I happened to just look over my shoulder, turn around, and saw a circle of students just standing there talking, and their parents had already left. And they were so excited that in a couple of days they would be traveling, you know, car and flying down to Valencia to begin the program. And so that in addition to receiving their medals and being recognized by the county that they come from, they were able to meet each other. And so that when they get down to Cal Arts and they're on their own living in the dorm, they will have some familiar faces, some friendly faces from San Mateo County, because these students came from all 5 districts. I was very pleased that we had students representing all areas as far north as Pacifica, South San Francisco, over to Half Moon Bay, as well as Burlingame, San Mateo, I think there was San Bruno, and then Menlo Park. So they really covered the area, the entire area of San Mateo County. My personal goal, just between us here, is I'd like to try and get 40 students next year accepted to that program. So it'll take a little more outreach to the high school teachers to have them encouraging their students to apply to this prestigious program. So that's it in a nutshell, and I can only add that stay tuned. We will keep you posted on our progress with the strategic plan, with our further outreach to the arts community, and to developing the grants program. I'd like to also take this time to thank Judah Thomasoff, who I think is somewhere here, and Peggy Jensen, who have been invaluable help to us in this effort. And the commissioners would also like to thank you, the supervisors, from the bottom of our heart. And you saw a photo earlier of Rachel Oatman from ARAGON. She did a series of hearts, and here are 2 hearts from Rachel Oatman. So thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you. You had a very impressive and productive year. Supervisor Tessier, I think you want to speak about Lisa, your commissioner.
I do. I just want to first off thank Lisa for her dedication, her enthusiasm, her energy while she's on the commission, her creative ability. You know, you're really going to be a hard act to follow, and you're going to be sorely missed. You didn't ask my permission to move out of the county. That was your first no-no. But since you are, we wish you the best and wish you success in your future endeavors. But we really want to thank you for all your time and effort that you put into the Arts Commission. You've done a yeoman's job, so thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Groom?
I just want to again say thank you to Robin's leadership, wish Lisa the very best, and I think that I hope you understand that the Arts Commission has rejuvenated itself, re-energized itself, and is doing some really fine work.
Thank you.
Okay, it's on to the next presentation. Is a presentation of a proclamation designating September 2013 as Recovery Month. Supervisor Dave Pine.
Thank you, Supervisor Horsley. The aim of Recovery Month is to raise awareness that with appropriate treatment and resources, people affected by mental health or substance abuse disorders can and do overcome challenges, recover, and become active and contributing members of the community. So behavioral health is a major component of the nation's healthcare needs. Today, about 32 million Americans over the age of 18 receive some sort of mental health services in any 12-month period. In addition, about 4 million people over the age of 12 receive substance abuse services. So every day in our county, people enter treatment for substance use and mental health disorders, and they begin their road to wellness and recovery in our system, which really emphasizes behavioral health as being every bit as essential as physical health and overall health. So during this recovery month, we want to recognize those individuals in recovery and, of course, acknowledge the very hard work of all those who provide these really important services. We are fortunate in this county to have an exceptional behavioral health and recovery services department and very dedicated community-based organizations that work with the department to provide really remarkable work to help people in their recovery, educate the public about stigma, and otherwise inform us about mental health disorders. So over the course of Recovery Month, there will be a number of events in August and September, such as a resource fair at the County Center on September 17th, Recovery Art Show also here at the County Center, and the annual picnic at Flood Park on the 26th of September. So hopefully many of you can join us. So I'd now like to introduce three people. We have Stephen Kaplan, the Director of the Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, Francisco Sajan, if I'm pronouncing that right, Youth Leadership Institute, and Karina Shortall from Voices of Recovery. And I think we also have a proclamation or resolution, so I will move that we accept that proclamation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Why don't I give you this, and we'll be ready for your presentation.
Sure.
Thank you, Board. I just have a few comments, and then I'll turn it over to our the people that should be speaking. I want to thank the Board again for this resolution and the words recognizing the importance of recovery. But in retrospect, more important than the words is really the actions that your Board has taken over the years. Your Board and your predecessors have long supported the services that we provide through your generous financial support for our programs, most recently demonstrated by your approval of our Measure A proposals. But as important as the finances that you've provided us, and I have to say I'm the envy of probably all my colleagues around the state and other counties. I don't talk about this too much with them. But as important as the financial contributions is really the deeds that you take frequently to show how concerned and supportive you are for people who are in recovery, struggling with substance use and mental health issues, and all of our providers. You demonstrate this really by showing up. You attend our functions, whether it's our Housing Heroes Award, our drug court graduations, our Achieve 180 graduations, our Pathways graduations. You tour our programs and you talk to our clients. And it's really taking that personal time out of your busy schedules is really far more important than the words, although the recognition and the resolutions are important. I think next year we ought to turn the tables a bit. We ought to give you the resolution, really for your historic and long-term support of what we do. So on behalf of all the staff with Behavioral Health and Recovery Services and all our fantastic providers, I want to thank you again for the resolution, but again, more importantly, for the support that you provide our services every day. So I'm going to turn it over to, Francisco, you're going to go first?
Hi, my name is Francisco Zajuan. I started using marijuana about age 16 while attending Sequoia High School. I had a friend who sold drugs, got involved with selling and using. Eventually, I got caught for selling and was expelled. I did a week in the juvenile hall and electronic monitoring program. After that, I had to go to a different school, and I went to Community School South, where I met Daniel, a substance abuse counselor for teens. Daniel was with El Centro de Libertad, and he got me involved with their youth advisory board. I worked with Daniel for about a year and a half, and we did a couple projects about environmental prevention. We did a photo voice video called Our City as We See It. This is a video about seeing our community in Redwood City through the eyes of youth, mostly looking on how easy it is for youth to get alcohol and drug-related items in our community. And Kiwanis Key Leader Trainings gave us trainings and skills to become community leaders in our community. Today, 3 years later, I'm involved in Youth Leadership Institute and Yo Mario. We're working with Las Tienditas Saludables, Healthy Corner Store Makeovers campaign, where we go out and build relationships with store owners in low-income communities, isolated communities, and encourage them to participate in a store makeover to remove ads for alcohol in targeted communities. Also, we work with store owners to provide more healthier, fresh produce instead of junk food. I've also been going to community college for about a year now, and in 2 weeks I'm starting a kinesiology program. Eventually I want to transfer to San Jose State and complete the kinesiology health program. Before when I used to use drugs and eat lots of crappy food, I wasn't paying attention to what my body really needed. I was told I had high blood pressure and a risk for heart disease. I've learned a lot and made a commitment to staying sober, staying healthy, and getting in shape.
All right.
Being involved in all these different county-funded programs has kept me sober and on the right path. But there are still lots of youth out there who are bored doing drugs and staying in the cycle. Totally stuck. We need to help these kids think about their future. We need more youth programs designed to get kids involved in worthwhile activities. One day I want to help other people and make my community a healthier place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, honorable board members. My name is Karina Shortall, and I am glad to share my story with everyone. In my past, I lived a life that was filled with wrong decisions that involved criminal activity and substance abuse. In 2012, I was sentenced under AB 109 and assigned to the post-release Community Supervision Probation Unit here in San Mateo County. I was encouraged by my probation officer to visit the Service Connect office, and I was surely convinced that they were just another program that could not help me. The first day at Service Connect, they provided me with vouchers to meet my basic needs and also helped me to build a solid foundation in my recovery. The staff and support groups encouraged me to work hard and stay determined in order to reach my goals. Since then, I have completed outpatient treatment at El Central, MRT with Service Connect, and my own personal wellness recovery action plan with Voices of Recovery. As a result, I am employed by Voices of Recovery and assigned to work at Service Connect, giving back to those who are in need of guidance just like I was. My children are now involved in my life, and I am attending community college majoring in human services. Today, I am proud to say that I have successfully completed probation and lived my life as a productive tax-paying member of society. San Mateo County government deserves congratulations and a round of applause for providing services like these to individuals who are in need of them. Thank you for allowing me to share today.
Thank both of you for your presentation. Thanks, Steve, for your leadership as well. Just have one speaker on this item, Martin Fox.
Thank you again for your service to the residents of San Mateo County. It's appreciated. National Recovery Month is a celebration best understood in the context of the recent action of its federal government promoter, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. SAMHSA, as it is called, has essentially denied that half of the persons living with mental illness, that is untreated, are also responsible for 10% of all homicides, a higher percentage of the mass killings, constitute 20% of jail and prison inmates, and at least 30% of the homeless. These seriously mentally ill persons inundate emergency rooms and colonize libraries, parks, train stations, and other public spaces. Even if the mass shootings by mentally ill individuals in Newton, Connecticut, Aurora, Colorado, and Tucson, Arizona are not considered enough evidence of SAMHSA's failure, SAMHSA's 41,000-word plan of action for 2011-14 makes no mention of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or outpatient commitment. And SAMHSA's contribution to the President's White House conference on the December 14th tragedy focused on school children and insurance coverage, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the federal government should get out of the mental health business. Please help show SAMHSA the door and take the opportunity to make more than cosmetic changes by voting to implement Laura's law.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Okay, going on to matters set for a specified time. Item number 5 is acting as the governing board of the Fair Oaks Sewer Maintenance District. We have to conduct a public hearing. After conducting the public hearing and adopt a resolution ordering the annexation of the lands of Upson, it's 145 Jane Drive, Woodside, to the Fair Oaks Sewer Maintenance District, and directing the Director of Public Works to transmit a copy of the resolution ordering annexation to the town of Woodside and file maps of said annexation with the appropriate agencies. Mr. Porter for a report.
Thank you, President Horsley, members of the board, Mr. Holland, Mr. Maltby, and Mr. Thompson. The Fair Oaks Sewer Maintenance District, following your public hearing, recommends approval of annexation of this land into the Fair Oaks Sewer Maintenance District. The district has the capacity to serve and has not received any objections during the public comment period. With that, I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
I will now open the public hearing. Are there any comments on the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Oh, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move approval of the annexation, directing the Director of Public Works to transmit a copy of the resolution, ordering annexation. So we will approve the resolution.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. We're now on to, we're skipping or tabling item number 6 and on to item number 7. It's a resolution authorizing the establishment of no parking during specified hours zones to facilitate street sweeping in the Broadmoor and San Mateo Highlands area. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, President Horsley,
Once
members
again.
of the board, Mr. Maltby, and Mr. Thompson. We have a,
Oops.
but
I'm
now
sorry.
we're ready to go.
There we go.
The matter before you involves implementing no parking zones, limited no parking zones in the San Mateo Highlands and Broadmoor Village. And this is necessitated by the current California Regional Water Quality Control Board municipal regional permit that the county and the various jurisdictions within San Mateo County are under. Part C10 of that permit requires elimination of trash from city streets by 2020. And as you can see on the slide, it is a progressive implementation. We're required to eliminate 40% of trash by 2014, 70% in 2017, and 100% in 2022. Now, what that means is somewhat up to debate. What is elimination of trash? That is being worked out with the regional board right now. But in trying to achieve those goals, there are a few methods that have been implemented to date. The county has been a leader in adopting a plastic bag ban, and that has reduced trash significantly from the streets in the cities and the county. We've also received grants for what's called trash capture devices in storm drain inlets. And what those do basically is block trash from entering the storm drain system that eventually goes into the bay. So those devices have been implemented. We've had limited success with them. The other method of reducing trash is obviously by getting it before it gets to the inlet. And that's what we're talking about today. That is through enhanced street sweeping. The way that trash enters our storm drain system is through the curbs on curb and gutter. And it's a little difficult to see this slide, but there's trash, leaves, and debris in the curb and gutter. And if we have cars parked along those curbs and gutters, our sweepers can't get in to collect that material. And in storm events, what happens is that material then goes to the storm drain system, gets caught in the storm drain. All of our storm drain systems feed directly into the bay, by the way. There's no filtration, there's no stopping it. Once that material gets into those pipes, it goes right into the bay. So the intent is to stop that before it gets there. The first area for consideration is in the San Mateo Highlands. The no parking zone in question is around San Mateo Highlands Elementary School. Now, in recommending these limited parking areas, a firm that does consulting for San Mateo County and the cities, EOA, worked with the Regional Water Quality Control Board to identify high, moderate, and low trash generation areas. And basically, those were identified through surveys around the Bay Area. One of the land uses that is susceptible to trash generation is elementary schools. And if you can think about young children during lunchtime and during breaks, they tend to eat, have snacks, and those snacks, unfortunately, sometimes make it to the garbage can, sometimes don't, and then get picked up in the wind and get blown around the streets around the schools. So what we're recommending here is a limited no parking zone around the Highlands School for 2.5 hours that'll be swept twice a month. Broadmoor Village is another unincorporated area that's been identified as a high and moderate trash area. There are 2 schools in this area, one to the west and one, well, they're both west of Broadmoor, but there's 2 schools that are within that land use designation, as well as many properties in that area, both multifamily and single-family residents. And I would like to mention that when the county got these maps, we took a look at them, and we actually went out and we sent out our folks to go look at whether there was indeed trash there. So we field verified those maps. And what you see is the result of some modifications based on those field surveys. But what's still left in these limited no parking zones are areas where staff did identify trash and problem sweeping in those areas. So within Broadmoor, Park Plaza is right in between those 2 schools. We've recommended, and we can provide you with this PowerPoint, the locations of those signs. This is 87th Street. You can get a sense for what the streets look like in this area. Again, 87th Street, we're recommending no parking zones in this area. Broadmoor has quite a few. Edgeworth, which is between 87th and mid-block, which is the city limit line for the city of Daly City. I'd also like to mention Daly City has a rather extensive street sweeping program. They're one of the cities in this county that really went the extra mile and is sweeping, I believe, on a weekly basis right now with no parking zones in the entire city. We're not recommending going to that level at this point, but we are recommending bi-monthly sweeping. Again, Edgeworth, we click through these pretty quickly. Sullivan Avenue, that's fairly close to the City Hall in Daly City. Golden Gate Way, Village Lane, which is a bit to the north and just west of the school. Garden Lane, which is in that area as well. Alder, we're recommending no parking zones in that area. Washington Street, which is a very high-traveled street in that area. 88th, again, that is near the City Hall with multifamily properties. 89th is in this area as well. 90th, obviously. There's a big area near the City Hall by those schools that we're recommending for no parking zones. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Just want to, I see the great Bill Schumacher in the audience. Bill was a former supervisor for the county for a long time. He actually was a former Daly City Police Sergeant when I was a Daly City Police Officer. So welcome to the board, Bill. Questions?
Hey, Bill. He's checking up on me, wants to see what I'm going to do with Broadmoor here. I can see it already. Well, if I could just make a couple comments. Jim, as it relates to Broadmoor, I was looking at the map, and I've received lots of letters from Broadmoor residents that are very concerned about this. And, you know, having been in Daly City, I do see the benefit of street sweeping. One of the questions they asked, and I can't tell by your signs here, if you're cleaning on that street, are you only cleaning one side of the street a day, or are you doing both sides in the same day, same time?
What we're suggesting for Broadmoor is to vary the sides of the street so that we'll go in one day, we'll have no parking on one side, residents can park on the other side, and then we'll come back the next time and do the other side of the street. So Broadmoor is one of the more impacted areas in terms of parking in the unincorporated areas. So in order to try to relieve some of the impact of that, that's what we're recommending here.
Okay, because there's several people thought it was just the opposite, and I thought that would be almost impossible. You'd have to park up in the shopping center if that were the case. So I'm glad to hear that. I know a lot of people are concerned about for having to move their cars, but I think if you just have to move them across the street or down the street a little bit, I do that every single week. And we are required to have these kinds of guidelines for the wastewater and all the restrictions we have now with NPDES. So I would like to hear, we have some residents here of Broadmoor. I would, if they have some comments they wanted to make, I'd sure like to hear them. I have gotten several letters, so if there's anybody, I'd like to hear from some of my constituents and see what they have to say about it.
And I also see Marie Bersuelas from the school district is here as well. And I don't, if you're
Can I
you
have
wanna-
a question from Mr. Porter?
Oh, sure, you may.
Go after? Okay.
I want to take the comments first.
Okay.
Gary Stanfeld, followed by Susan Stansfeld.
I thank you for allowing us to make a presentation about this shotgun approach to a minor issue. My name is Gary Stansfield. I live on Village Lane, and my wife will give you the major presentation, and I totally agree with everything she says, since I am a domesticated husband here.
Of course, of course. Happy wife.
One
happy
of the
life.
things that the gentleman talked about is very true. 87th is a problem. The school in questions are a problem, but not to the extent 2, 3, 4 blocks up. We have got a petition from the neighborhood, and they're quite upset about it. And to be honest, there are some people that are for the no parking, and the reasons are they don't like the neighbors' vehicles. They don't believe that they should have 5 or 6 vehicles in a family household. But the main ones are against it are immediately across from the school, Garden Grammar School there. And it is a problem. We have walked the streets for a number of days here. If the county would propose moving a small area, approximately 200 feet, up from 87th up to Village Lane, that would resolve 99.9% of the problems. The neighbors down there are concerned because the kids are sloppy. There's no such thing as responsibility anymore. They have contacted the schools, and the schools have sent out letters. Neighbors have gone over there, confronted people dumping garbage out in the parking lot at the school, and the neighbors have been told, well, if you want to clean it up, you go ahead and do so. So with that, I would like to have it completely reevaluated and go with our proposals. I thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Stansfield. And now Susan Stansfield, followed by Marie Busuelas.
Good morning to all of you. I'm Susan Stansfield. I live at 6 Village Lane in Garden Village. And I have for each of you a petition signed by 96 residents in Garden Village on Village Lane and Garden Lane who are very much against this proposal. And I would like to give you...
You can give it to the clerk.
Oh, I'll give them to you. Thank you. I was born and raised at 6 Village Lane, so I have been in the community for 71 years. And our community has been a very clean community. Our people clean up our own garbage. You know, if there's something in front of our place, we take pride in our community. And we have always prided ourselves for the cleanliness of our streets. Now, I realize that right around Garden Village School, there is the accumulation, and basically it is from the children in the school. And we are suggesting possibly that the area that you clean would be right around the school, maybe up to Alder Street. The rest of us feel that one thing, our houses, a lot of our houses were built very early and they do not even fit our cars anymore. Our cars have expanded and our garages haven't. I'm very concerned about the elderly who would have to move their cars. And you say easy to park across the street, except that up at the far end, I live up near the corner of Sullivan. People come in and park there to take the bus up to Bart to go to work. And therefore, we have one car to park on the street, and we are lucky if we can park it in front of our I own a double lot, and we're lucky if we can find one of the 4 to 5 spaces for cars there from ourselves.
Could you, Ms. Stansfeld,
sorry?
Could you please summarize, so I have a bunch of other speakers
Yes,
on the screen?
yes. The other thing that I'm concerned about is if we cannot park in our area, the area around us is all parking meters. So that means that all of us, including the elderly and parents with children, would have to park somewhere in Broadmoor and walk many, many blocks just to leave their car the 2.5 hours. So mothers with children, elderly, people when it's raining, we would not be the ones that would necessarily get the parking on the other side of the street. So I am speaking for all 96 of the people who couldn't be here today, and I thank you and hope that you will consider this.
Thank you, Ms. Stansfeld. Marie Basuela, followed by John Armfield.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here actually representing Broadmoor Property Owners Association. We've gotten all kinds of calls and people really concerned about this. And thank you, Adrian, for mentioning about the both sides of the street, because the map did look like that's what it was. We also feel that the area that's being listed for this restricted parking, in order for anyone to move their cars, it would be a large distance around, and we are concerned about that. I do feel that, since I do represent the schools, that it's time to get a program over there and try to help the children understand that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But that's another issue, and I think that's something that we can try and take care of. But I would like to see it be more confined around the actual schools so that all the other residents won't have the problem that they're talking about now. So, mostly the people that are concerned are the ones on Village Lane and Garden Lane. However, Stewart Avenue is a nightmare. It's already a one-way street, and it is totally congested that people actually park. My sister had a house there, parked in her driveway, not in front of it, but in. So there's a lot of issues over there as well. So I would like to see if we could kind of make it more condensed than what it is, with the idea that we're going to really, truly work on that trash problem. Most of you know Jerry Hill, and his stepmom lives right on the edge of Village Lane. And for years, she has gone out there and picked up the garbage that some of the children left. And so we know there is a little problem there, and I think we can try and take care of that. We right now have the street parking, and sometimes oops.
Thanks, Marie.
Thank you for letting me talk. For all the people.
John Armfield and followed by Leslie Nicholas.
My name is John Armfield. I live at 125 Garden Lane, which is about a block and a half from Garden Village School, to the east of Garden Village School. We really don't have, up to that point, much of a problem. The streets are relatively clean. Sometimes we get trash from the kids, but not very often. And the residents go out and sweep the gutter and take the trash up. A lot of trash, if it's out on the street, a lot of times it'll just blow in my yard, and I'll take care of it. So I'm going to just reiterate. I don't think I'd like the street department to look at this again, or I'd like to ask you to have the street department look at it again, because I don't think that what they're proposing is really necessary. I mean, we've lived for 75 years, or my house is 75 years old, 73 years old almost, but we just haven't had a problem. We sort of survived without that, and all of a sudden we have this. I just want to point out, this is my main thing why I'm here, is I got this, and I sent a letter to everybody on all the supervisors, and the thing is, I called Diana at the street sweeping department, who is the spokesperson for the street sweeping department, and she told me, you can't park on either side of the street. What we're proposing, you can't park on either side of the street for the hours of restricted parking. And so that's why I came down, because I thought that was sort of crazy. I mean, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. Anyway, before you pass anything or just give them a carte blanche resolution to do what they need to do, I'd like to ask that you have the street sweeping department get a rational proposal that won't impact the residents as much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Leslie, let's see. Nicholas, followed by Jonathan Millington. Aye.
Hi. Thank you, President Horsley and Supervisors, for providing this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Leisha Nicholas. I'm here as representative of the Highlands Community Association, CSA 1, and I'm speaking on behalf of Highlands Rec District, as well as the 66 residents who called Department of Public Works in opposition to this proposal. The Highlands appreciates your time and work for our community and area communities. We're not able to support this proposal without evidence. We contacted Department of Public Works 6 weeks ago and haven't had no response. Why haven't they met with us, the Highlands and Broadmoor, to go over the details before today? The tone of this new proposal has been that we should now be grateful that only a small portion of our neighborhood will be burdened with restrictions. But I stand to report continuing opposition to this proposal, most especially for our 22 families living near the school that will be directly burdened by this apparently unnecessary parking restriction. Please prove to us with documented facts why Highlands Elementary is chosen as one of only 2 locations in all of San Mateo County's 449,000 square miles of land to need restrictive parking. We've not seen any evidence, nor do we believe, that our little school is the top polluter in all of San Mateo County. Highlands residents do not want the visual pollution of unnecessary signage, nor parking restrictions near our homes. Department of Public Works' own report says Highlands showed substantial opposition and 66 residents called to oppose it. Why go through the motions of collecting the public comment? We've not been allowed to have real participation on this. Highlands has a history of working with the county to resolve matters like this. Looking forward, we would appreciate going back to a mutually respectful process in such matters. We're opposed to this proposal, and we are still requesting the public information and evidence for our schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Nichols. Jonathan Millington, followed by Robert Airy.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Millington, and I live on Garden Lane, about a block away from the school. I'll be very brief. When I purchased my house about 10 years ago, I was very impressed with the cleanliness of the street, and that cleanliness is still apparent. It's a very clean street. All of the neighbors take a lot of pride in our street. Everybody picks up after themselves, and it's just a clean street. So I don't understand the logic behind it. Even the mention of debris from the school, I don't see that. I see very little litter, and all of my neighbors are diligent about keeping their house fronts clean. That's one thing that I wanted to mention, that it's a very clean street, and I don't see the reasoning behind it. And the second issue that I wanted to bring is there's some confusion as to, I've gotten several letters, and the last letter that I got indicated that the street cleaning would be done on the same day, and that would cause an extreme burden on all of the residents of the street if they were forced to move their cars on the same day. All of our houses have single driveways, and it would ultimately it would burden the store on Junipero Serra, where everybody would end up bringing their cars and filling it to capacity, and it would cause them problems with their business. And I just think it should be reevaluated and maybe a second look taken. They said that they surveyed the area. I survey the area every day, and I think it's an extremely clean street.
Thanks, Mr. Millington.
Thank you.
Now, Robert Airy, followed by Sydney Airy.
Good morning. My name is Robert Airy, and I'm also a homeowner, and I also own a business up the street, about a block away at the Broadmoor Center. First of all, I'd like to say that people who work at IHOP, they're not allowed to park in the parking lot, so they do take up spaces in our neighborhood. There's absolutely no trash that I see in the neighborhood. If there is something, we pick it up. Mostly everybody that lives on Broadmoor and Garden Lane are homeowners. At the school, at the bottom lot, yes, I do see trash there, which I think it is the school's problem, or they should have something to pick it up. The other thing too is that I just think that it doesn't make sense that they have to do the street sweeping, because it just doesn't make sense at all. If you guys can go take a look at it, you will realize that there's no trash. On 87th, yes, there is trash. The main streets, I do believe, should have street sweeping, but the outer streets that have nice homes don't need it at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Airy. Sydney Airy, followed by Shelby Watkins.
Hello, my name is Sydney Airy, and my address is 33 Village. I live on the corner of Village and Edgeworth. There's two things that I would like to speak to in particular. The impact on the businesses in the Broadmoor Center there, where Cookjay Market is, those places are full all the time, okay? And the overflow from that does come onto our streets. The second thing is, you haven't said anything at all about the people going in and out of the convalescent hospitals in our area, convalescent homes. There's a convalescent home directly across the street from my front door, and it's a licensed facility, and there's social workers and people going in and out of there on a daily basis, and they park on either side of the street. So that hasn't been addressed at all. I also think that it's the Garden Village's school responsibility to take care of their own trash. The main streets are, like 87th, does need some street sweeping. But in front of our homes, on those two residential streets, as other speakers have said, we take pride in our property, we clean the sidewalks, and we clean the gutters. I'm not alone in that at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Watkins.
Good morning, Supervisors.
Morning.
My name is Shelby Watkins, and my wife Lisa Beth and my two sons Decker and Chris live at 115 Village Lane. We've lived there approximately 9 years, a short amount of time for this neighborhood, and we love this area. And most of my neighbors take great pride in their front yards and try to keep them up. And I have a picture here taken this morning that shows that there are a lot of cars on the street on both sides. And this is after most people have left for work. Can I ask you to take it around so they can see a closer look? You'll notice the streets are clean. I do get papers blown up from the school because where I happen to live, which is midway between Sullivan and Garden Village School, the wind blows in an easterly direction constantly, and you'll see papers get caught in the bushes, but everybody picks them up. I did take a walk around the neighborhood too because I wanted to see for myself what was at issue. 87th had an ample supply of litter, I would agree. Down by the school, I looked at the drainage, and unlike the speaker earlier, I did not see any devices there to catch litter. I saw a grate and then a fairly large opening above the grate, which concerned me because I remember the case in San Francisco of a toddler that fell through a 9-inch gap on Golden Gate Bridge. So that concerned me even more. I'd never bothered to look before. So I would be more concerned with fixing the grates in the area, to at least as one alternative. I would also like to see the community spoken with before these restrictions are put into force. There are other ways. Maybe we can have a community watch so that when rains come, because I would suppose that's when the lion's share of this problem develops, that we could maybe keep a watch out on it. We all love our neighborhood, and we want to keep it nice looking and friendly as possible.
Thanks, Mr. Watkins. Supervisor Pine, you have some questions?
For Mr. Porter. I had two questions, Mr. Porter. I know in the Highlands, we kind of got off to a bad start because initially a mailing went out to the entire neighborhood that did show, a very extensive rollout of no sweeping and signage. And could you talk a little bit about, did a similar thing happen in Broadmoor where there was two notices, and could you speak a little bit about what precipitated the change from kind of the more extensive approach to the more limited approach?
Certainly, through the President, the original recommendations from the Regional Water Quality Control Board and our consultant was to have street sweeping throughout all those communities, including Ladera, the Highlands, Broadmoor, all those streets that you see. In between the time that we sent the first notice and about a week later, I would say, we got updated maps from our consultants who had been working extensively with the regional board to reduce the amount of area that requires sweeping. So those maps got adjusted, and we greatly reduced the amount of sweeping that we're required to do in order to comply with this permit. I'd like to also note we're already doing an extensive amount of sweeping in the North Fair Oaks area right now, as well as many of our commercial districts. So what's happening now is as this permit restriction gets tighter and tighter, it's reaching out into other areas that are more residential in nature but do have trash generation. Because ultimately the regional board is looking for zero trash. The county of San Mateo is the permittee, and if there is trash found in the bay or coming out of our inlets, the county of San Mateo will be the ones that will be given the notice of violation and potentially fined by the regional board. So what we're trying to do is come up with a program that is addressing the need to reduce the trash, but trying to really hit the areas that make the most sense and concentrate in the areas where we get the most bang for the buck.
Okay, thank you. And then, another concern that has been relayed to me, which is, a very fair question, is as these standards ratchet up, what happens? How much more street sweeping prohibitions will there, or requirements will there be? Since we know we have a very high standard to meet.
Again, through the President, there are monthly meetings going on right now between local municipal staff, cities and counties throughout the 9 Bay Area counties with the Regional Water Quality Control Board to look at how we're going to meet these goals. And ideas are being generated as we move along. Now, the first permit requirement is at 40% in 2014, but 70% will hit us in, I believe, 2017. I don't have my notes right now. But there is going to be a need to come up with more ways to eliminate that trash. The plastic bag ban actually made quite a bit of an impact on trash. So there will be physical ways of removing that trash, but I think we're also going to have to reach out to the communities, do some education in terms of where your trash goes, which is in the bay, and also look at producers of that trash, such as fast food restaurants and other businesses, to try to keep those trash items out of the street system. So it'll be a multi-pronged approach, but this is certainly not the end. There will have to be additional methods taken to be able to eliminate that trash by 2022.
And just to comment, I know in the Highlands, the proposal would entail, if I recall correctly, 6 signs around the portion of the school with no parking just on the school side. So it is quite a bit. It is modest, but going forward, when we think about the next steps, getting the community involved is going to be really critical. After the new proposal went out, I was able to actually post it on the Nextdoor network system. It went to all the residents, and from my experience, obviously the revised proposal was, wasn't met with the fear that the first one was. But we have to work hard on those communications and the input process.
Supervisor Tessier?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments. Obviously, we know we're sort of under the gun with the Water Quality Control Board, but, I got this on Thursday. I've been out of town since Friday, came in last night, got all these emails. I'd like to take some time on the Broadmoor Village one. I'd like to meet with the Homeowners Association. whenever there's an issue, we always try to meet, look at it. I just heard about it myself. So I think, there's a lot of issues. That's a very unique area there in Broadmoor. You have a shopping center at the top end. You've got a school at the bottom end. I know it's hard to believe, but it is windy and it is foggy there and things do blow around. But at the same time, it is a very pristine area. I mean, I've driven it many, many times. Doesn't mean we might not have some issues, and we've got some time to look at it. There are some areas that I absolutely think need to be done. The 87th area. I mean, just that's like a wind tunnel, and things blow from the shopping center. We need to talk with the shopping center. We need to talk with the schools. I think we need to do a few things before we make these kinds of decisions that have great impacts. They're absolutely right about the parking. People from that Broadmoor Village, they park in the neighborhood. I see it all the time, and they walk up to IHOP. And so there's other impacts that affect the parking in that area, and I think we need to take a broader look. At some point, though, if we're not meeting our guidelines as we get into 2014 and 2017, we may all have to live with street sweeping on every single block in the entire county. But until then, I'd like to have that opportunity to meet with the Broadmoor Homeowners Association, any of the neighbors, and really walk through, go back through, take a look at the area. I'm not an expert on trash in the streets or street sweeping, but, we can all learn a little bit more, and I'd like to meet with our staff again to find out what that level was and why they saw what they saw, and the neighbors see it very differently. So I'd like a little more time to work with the community, just to be sure at the end of the day, we're doing the right thing in the right places for the community and for all the requirements that we have, because at the end of the day, if we end up being fined, we're all paying for it. And they're not little fines, they're huge, they can be huge fines. So we need to find out what's the best alternative here to take care of these different areas that feel very impacted. So I'd like to, and I don't know if you want to do it for the whole item, but I'm going to ask that we continue this till at least October to give me a chance to have meet with the Homeowners Association, meet with the neighbors, and have an opportunity to move around the area and also work with staff.
Supervisor Groom?
Thanks, President Horsley. I'd certainly support that, but I'm a little concerned that on our previous item on the with the planning fee raises, we did not have neighborhood meetings in the unincorporated area, and now this comes and we didn't have neighborhood meetings. And is that correct, Mr. Porter?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
I mean,
We did notify the neighborhood. We didn't physically meet with them, though. We encouraged input, though.
I think that that's what we really need to do in the future when we have specific areas that are being asked to make changes. We need to meet with them before the report comes out. As Supervisor Tissier said, no one really gets it till sometime on Thursday. Probably people don't always pay attention, and then suddenly Tuesday is upon us. So I think we just need to be a little better in our communication efforts.
Can I, do we want to put off both Broadmoor and San Mateo Highlands, or is the Highlands, are you, Supervisor Pine, are you satisfied that?
Well, I think if we're going to put off the item, we can certainly go ahead and take the other off. Again, though, to Ms. Nicholas, I think it's highly unlikely anything will change, but since we're if we're sitting here alone, we would probably take action on it, but we should pull it off then, and we can talk about it.
So we'll agendize it for a future date. Supervisor Slocum, you have some comments?
Just a quick question following up on Supervisor Groom's comments. I'm just wondering if for those public kind of things like the fee increase for planning, if the county manager's office might not formalize that communication or outreach to these neighborhoods that are affected by these things, so that it's just not up to the individual department head, that the county have a consistent and clear process to do that in the future.
Good suggestion.
Sure.
Okay. So we will not take action on item number 7, and there'll be some, I guess, continuing dialogue between Public Works and the community. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break and come back for the county manager's report.
These are your last speaker slips for.
Can I ask my fellow supervisors to come back and let's continue the board meeting? We're just missing a couple of supervisors. Oh, there we go. There's. Well, we are back on the air, so we're back in session. So just waiting for Supervisor Tessier. No. Right. Okay. She is coming. She'll be here in a minute. We'll start then. Okay, thank you. So we'll go back into session and start with the county manager's report. Before you speak about that, John, though, the other day I was met by representatives from our core service agencies, of which you know there are 8. And I know the Silicon Valley Community Foundation has really stopped their safety net funding, and I'd just like to have a report back. There was a memo actually that your office sent some time back, and your memo talked about not only the safety net funding, but also about $310,000 for rental assistance and another $50,000 to $75,000 financial education and legal aid support for very low-income folks. One of the things that the core service agencies were pointing out, and I can also point out for some of the statistics I have as well, the individuals that they helped last year were 36,315. Households were 12,891. The assisted 17,598 people with food, and assisted 6,038 with housing. And we all know that housing is a significant, very definite, very bad problem for us in the county. But also on Medi-Cal enrollees for the health plan went from a couple of years ago about 69,000 to a current 102,000 persons. So while the economy is doing better and some of our residents are doing better, some of our low-income residents are not. So I'd like to have a report back from your office on the safety net funding, as well as some of the two other items I mentioned.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, we'll include that as part of the budget in September.
Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. President, members of the board, you are receiving today the final two Measure A report backs. The first report back is regarding the open data and technology infrastructure upgrades. We are recommending $460,000 in open data and performance dashboards that will better enable the internal county departments to provide information and to better interact with the public in terms of providing and making in meaningful form county information in various ways and formats. The second part of this recommendation is a $6 million upgrade to the county's wireless networks and infrastructure in order to keep up with the increased demands on our network and the various new ways of computing, in the cloud, voice over, etc. Our infrastructure needs extensive upgrades. John Walton, our Information Services Director, is available to discuss the specifics of these two recommendations.
John Walton.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the board, supervisors, Mr. Holland, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Thompson. I have a short, just a few quick slides I'd like to share with you, and then be happy to answer questions and provide more information. In just a minute.
It's better work for you.
I sent out my email on software standardization just a little bit late, I think, perhaps. But in any case, open data and open government, what I wanted to just mention in support of Mr. Maltby's comments earlier was we're here to talk a little bit about open data today. Open data is really just a portion of what we would call the open government initiative that's going on right now in all around the country, around the world. Open data is a way that people can access government data more easily. We have a lot of different elements we're trying to promote here in San Mateo County now, but getting citizens more involved online and through electronic means. We want to create a more transparent, accessible government where people can get the information they want on their own time through their own devices, and we think this is a good way to do it. The Open Data Portal, thanks to the hard work of Garrett Dunwoody and other staff, is up and running right now. It's accessible to the public and to internal departments. What happens a lot of times is there's a piece of data, a map or a table or a document that's in a department somewhere. You were looking at maps earlier, actually, when you were talking about a lot of the subjects you're grappling with right now about parking and things like that. Those are county derived data sets. Our idea is all these data sets would be available to the public online, and then people can start to make their own decisions and own applications and own analysis of this data over time. So that is the open data part. There's a lot of good things. I'd encourage everyone to go there. Departments are already starting to become really engaged. We have coordinators in every department that are working with our department to load up more data, and we're setting a performance goal to have actually hundreds of data sets available online over the next few months. Related to the infrastructure one, I'll address that later, but I think probably more appropriately I should probably hand it over to Jim Sacco and his staff to talk about the performance dashboards, which are an extension of the Open Data Initiative as well.
Hi, members. Is this on? Yeah. Members of the board. Mike's gonna get it going here. So what you see right now is which would be the public-facing homepage for the Measure A dashboard. So the goal eventually immediately is to get up the Measure A dashboard in time for budget hearings, and then also after that we would do the goals for the County Shared Vision 2025. and then ultimately, probably a couple of years down the road, to be a major initiative in the upcoming years, would be to get county department measures on dashboards as well. But so this is the Measure A one, and so we're gonna run through a couple of them, and as you can see on that, they're organized. So the Measure A proposals are organized by community outcome, and you'll see that we're going to do some reading program, and you'll see the number 44 up there. So that represents where we are right now. So that's 44% of kids that participate in summer reading actually complete the course. And I'm going to have Mike click on the summer reading. So you can see that the goal is 60%. I can even, maybe for the public, I'll read what it says there. San Mateo County will support summer reading programs with a goal of 60% completion. We're currently at 44%. And then as you go down you can see that there's currently 19,000 kids that participate annually in summer reading, which is about 12% of the county's population for children 18 years and under. And then down below that, you see a chart that has all the school districts and the reading proficiency by school district. You'll notice we have 3 years of data for each school district, and you'll see, be hard for the public to see, but on your monitors you can see there's a red line which indicates 80%, which is the county's goal for reading proficiency, which is another measure we'll see in a minute. And then there's a dotted black line which represents 55%, which is currently the county average for the reading proficiency for all school districts in the county. And then as you go down further, you'll see a map with plot points. The plot points, the size of the plot point indicates, what was this one? Oh, these are library locations, and so the size indicate, the bigger the plot point means that the libraries are open for more hours. So basically that's what the indicator of the size is. And then you'll also see to the right of that a bar chart that shows library visits. And you'll notice there's the green is actual visits, and then they just started collecting this data in the last 2 years, but the orange colored bar is the people that access the libraries through the internet. And then if you go down further below, you'll actually see the county's, the board's proposal, or the proposal that was brought to the board for the Measure A spending on the reading programs. So that's kind of a look at one dashboard. These are still in draft form. This one and the one I'm going to show next are probably closer to being done than some of the others. If you want to go back to we'll also look at early learning really quick. Okay, here we go. So I'll read the measure again. San Mateo County will significantly improve early learning care and school success for children ages 3 and 4. Again, we're currently at 55%, and the goal is 80%. If you continue down, you see the exact same chart that we had on the other one, because it's applicable here as well, which shows the reading proficiency by school district, with the 80% line, which is the goal, and the 55% line, which is the current average. And then you go down further, and then you see a map here with plot points. And this one indicates the size and the color of the plot points here indicates the percentage of students in each school district scoring proficient or higher. So the bigger the plot point, the higher percentage of kids that have proficient reading. And you can actually, I think, Mike, and you put the cursor on I think if you click on the various plot points, it'll tell you what school district it is and provide the underlying data.
So the plot points in red mean they're different than?
It just, it's funny, but the color, we can change this, but right now the color and the size of the plot point are the same.
Oh.
So it's not, they're both indications of the percentage. So, but you could have two different things. You could have a plot point where the size indicates perhaps maybe the number of kids in the school district, and the color indicates whether they're reading proficient or not at the average or above the average. And then going further down, there's a chart that shows actually a line chart that benchmarks the county's reading proficiency with the state. So you can see we're the green line, and we track. I can't tell, but it looks like 5 to 6, 7 percentage points higher than the state on average. And then again, if you go down to the bottom, you see the proposal for Measure A spending on early learning. So we wanted to just share this with the board on where we are right now with the dashboards, and hopefully we'll have all the Measure A proposals done sometime in early September so that this data will be available when we give the Measure A proposals to the board in September, the final packet.
Good.
Okay.
Jim, so if I could just say a few words then about the other portion of this memo, which is related to the network infrastructure. So for those of us that want to put this in more real terms, the network infrastructure is really the roads that all the cars drive on, if you want to think of it that way. It's the invisible wires in the wall or the wireless systems we use to connect. And I know this is a substantial amount of money, but the reality of it is the current network that's in place in the county was designed over 6 years ago and has been running well for us for 6 years. Unfortunately, it's been aging and it needs now to be upgraded and replaced, really based on where we're going in the future. 6 years ago when we were designing the network, when we were talking about things like voice over IP and cloud computing and mobility and iPad, those technologies were really dreams and weren't the reality of how we do our work today. And now when we look at how we interact with information like open data or telephones or video conferencing, the whole game has changed for us behind the scenes. And while I know $6 million is a lot of money, as John Gage from Sun Microsystems said at one point, really the network has become the computer. Without the network in place, without a robust network in place over the next 5 to 10 years, we're really going to limit ourselves in how we can take advantage of technology in the future. And just to put the $6 million into context, if I could, because I get asked a lot, well, how that seems, excessive for government. I don't think perhaps we're getting our best value for the money. If you really break down $6 million, if you assume that $6 million will last us another 6 years, and you start doing the math that we have over 7,000 devices in the county currently connected today that utilize that backbone network for data exchange, really when you do all the divisions and back that out, that comes out to less than 50 cents a day for every device in the county for the next 6 years to have high-speed network connectivity and access to the internet. So at 50 cents a day, I would argue that for less than a cup of coffee, what we're creating an investment for is this network that can support everything we want to do in the future, whether it's open data, mobility, free Wi-Fi, all these ideas we have that I think we want to accomplish over the next 6 years. We need to create that robust infrastructure to support not just the technology related projects, but how we do our work in all the different departments in the counties now, whether it's the health department or public safety in areas like those. They all rely on the network to transmit voice and video and just regular day-to-day data. So with that, I turn it back over to Mr. Maltby and be available for questions.
Any questions? Supervisor Slocum?
Thank you. Mr. Walton, thank you for your leadership on these two efforts and, of course, all the other initiatives that you have going on. It's appreciated. I personally am very pleased and excited about this renewed spirit of innovation and forward movement in the county in terms of its technology. So that's appreciated. Just three quick things. One, will the speed of the internet access in board offices get faster with the $6 million investment?
The answer is yes, John.
Thank you.
The answer is yes, Supervisor.
Yeah. In my travels, especially down in North Fair Oaks, I've had occasion to look at maps. And it seems as if there might be a situation, and maybe Mr. Dunwoody could speak to this, but there are a lot of different departments that rely on maps. And as surprising as it might seem, sometimes those maps may not always agree. And the same thing is true in data sets, that a lot of county departments use addresses. So emergency services, excuse me, uses the address, assessor uses addresses, planning department uses addresses, and so forth and so on. What happens in this open data when departments are loading all this data up when there may be inconsistencies of data, whether it be data or maps or whatever it happens to be? How will those inconsistencies, if they are there, be dealt with?
Sure, that, through the president, that's a very good question, Supervisor. And I will say, my experience has shown me, and I will say this will happen here, that there will be inconsistencies. And I would propose that that's actually one of the benefits or the power of a system like this. What happens traditionally in hierarchical organizations is you get pieces of information that start at the same, they go to different departments, and then they morph into slightly different versions of information over time. It's a problem for us in government because the public, when they come talk to us, they might talk to 3 or 4 different departments and get a different answer based on different data sets. By loading the data onto a public a site like this that's shared not only by external public but by departments internally, what that enables us to do really then is start to do quality control of the data. And we've built into this portal feedback mechanisms where people can comment on data sets and ask questions about data sets. So what we found is people have to move away from the fear of putting data up there that might not be 100% accurate, but actually look at it as an opportunity to put their data there and solicit feedback on the accuracy of the data so that we can make the data better over time.
Thank you. Just one other quick thing, Mr. President. On the $6 million for the communication networks, we've had conversations about the El Camino corridor and internet access, and the Caltrain corridor and internet access, and some other related topics. Just wondering if this $6 million will take us a step forward toward doing some of those things like the Caltrain internet access, or El Camino, lighting up El Camino, or, and other areas too.
It's specific, like Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, like Half Moon Bay, or Middlefield, or
Our vision for the county supervisor through the president again is that we do want to create that robust accessibility. I think I forwarded some of you an article about the recent announcement that Google cut with San Francisco to put free Wi-Fi in the parks. Without being too technical or boring, you know, a lot of what we want to do that last mile to connect the users better to the technology, we need that robust backbone to do that. That's what we were very fortunate to have in San Francisco, is a very extensive fiber network that went all over the city. We lack that here in San Mateo, one, because we don't own all the infrastructure in the county. So we're looking for partners like Caltrain, Sam's Trans, Silicon Joint Venture is talking to us, Cisco's talking to us, some other investors. So we feel like if we can, through this $6 million investment, build some of that backbone technology that other people can plug into, if you will, to create that accessibility in parks and Half Moon Bay and in the Fair Oaks area, that through those partnerships and through county investment, we can achieve a lot more connectivity, not only better connectivity in the board offices, as you put it, but really out to the public, where people to access data, to get services through the health department, things like that, through tablets and smartphones, we'll be able to create those connection points. Because I've been out to you know, Pescadero and places like that, I can't even get cell phone coverage out there. So if we don't step up and think about how those people, when we partner with some of the core agencies and how they're trying to create opportunities for the public out in those areas, if we don't step in and create some of those opportunities, I don't think it's going to happen on its own.
Thank you. Thank you.
Adrian? Supervisor Pine?
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of comments. I'm very excited to see the progress we've made here and really compliment the team. You know, I remember when we first kind of broached this topic, it wasn't that long ago, it was just a concept, and now we really have the open data portal, we have the performance metrics, so a lot's been accomplished. So I'm very excited for 2 reasons. You know, one, you know, our constituents are, you know, kind of, are expecting this, and they are doing more and more. They're conducting more and more of their life online, and we need to catch up and do more of our work and provide more of our information online. So certainly we're on the road now. And then secondly, too, as a policymaker who likes data, it's really, really helpful to have this so accessible and to be able to look at trends. And so, one recommendation I would make when time permits is, in addition to tracking like some of these specific Measure A goals, I think there are just, there's lots of data that we have that would be interesting to see how it changes over time. Like, for example, the criminal justice puts together a terrific package of information. And, if you could look at trend lines and, or the public health system with their number of clients served. And, even if it's not necessarily tied to a particular goal, I mean, you could quickly, you learn a lot by seeing how data changes over time. So I'm very excited to see what we've accomplished, and I appreciate everyone's work.
Just one quick comment on public Wi-Fi. And I was glad to hear that you're talking to Caltrain as well as Samtrans, because they also are interested in Wi-Fi as well. And we are very interested in parks. In some of our parks, instead of cluttering the place up with signs, if you had an application so that somebody could use their iPhone or iPad or whatever they have on them, so they can to go through the different sites of our parks, I think it's a great application. So we're really pleased to see the progress that you've made. So what's the pleasure of the board on this item?
Move it forward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'm sorry.
I have to point this out because, we get all these memos and they can be pretty dry, but whoever wrote this has got to get some credit. It says the communication network is effectively the road that transports all the various technologies. What we have in the county currently is a very small road in very poor condition. So that was a nice piece of drafting there.
Yeah, it was.
Mr. President, the second and final Measure A report back pertains to buildings and facilities infrastructure. We're recommending that the board allocate $16.25 million for a new public safety dispatch emergency operations center and data center. $6 million for the construction of a new fire station in Pescadero. $250,000 as a placeholder, really, for the replacement of the Cordilleras project. It's a very large and complicated project. It's going to involve $50 million or more. We want to really get a handle before we make our recommendations to the board on both the actual amount to construct or reconstruct buildings on the site, as well as a method of financing. And given what we've recommended to date in Measure A, what we will be recommending in the next agenda item regarding advanced payment of our unfunded liability and pensions and our debt limit, we just need a little more study of that. So we would be prepared at this time next year when the board considers rolling over the budget for 2015 to have a recommendation, a more specific recommendation and financing proposal regarding Cordilleras. So this you really should regard as a placeholder. We'll do some work this year, come back with some specific recommendations a year from now. Also a small amount for Airblade and vehicle charging stations. We have also included an indication that beyond Measure A in your five-year capital budget, we intend to bring forward extensive recommendations regarding really catching up on deferred maintenance and replacing infrastructure beyond parks, which you've already taken an initial step for, and with the necessary staffing to ensure that once the appropriations are made for the projects, that they actually get constructed within the time frame foreseen by the board. That has been included in this, although they were not all Measure A projects. That concludes my report on this particular Measure A item. If you have any questions, Mr. President, or members of the board, I'll be happy to answer them.
I know we have a couple firefighters in there. I know they're anxiously worried about the number of fire stations that we are going to be replacing. Skylon is also, it's not in this.
It's already in the budget.
I know it's already in the budget, so I just want to make sure that they knew it's not only Pescadero, but it's also Skylonda as well. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move it forward.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, wait, actually, I have two, I'm sorry, I have two comments on it. Julie Hoffman, and then followed by Martin Fox.
He's had his limit today.
President Horsley and Supervisors, thank you. My name is Julie Hoffman, and I am an advocate in the community for the seriously mentally ill. 45 years ago, my only sibling and brother, he was attending Hillsdale High School at age 15. He was diagnosed with chronic schizophrenia. 6 years later, my parents, Tony and Fran Hoffman, started a fledgling organization with some other parents of schizophrenics, and it was called Parents of Adult Schizophrenics. In that era, they were advocating for facilities and housing and treatment services and et cetera. And they successfully lobbied your predecessors at that time to turn the former TB hospital, Cordilleras, into a mental health facility. And in 1978, I'm proud to say my parents cut the ribbon on Cordilleras Hospital. Oh. So in their memory, of course, I'm here today to speak on behalf of renovating Cordilleras Hospital. Back then, housing for the seriously mentally ill was inadequate and deplorable in many cases. Today, stable long-term housing for the seriously mentally ill still is problematic, and Cordilleras is a great asset in our community, and I advocate keeping it open, and thank you for your time and consideration.
But it definitely needs to be replaced.
Thank you.
For a more modern facility. Martin Fox? Thanks, Julie. Good to see you.
Thank you again for your service, every one of you. I know that you've been living with a legacy of a decision that was made by others in 2006. And this particular item reflects forward-looking thinking, and I appreciate that. You have, and I really appreciate the presentation that Mr. Maltby has made. I acknowledge Supervisors Pine's efforts to go out to the facility and actually look at it. This is where many of the people end up who can't come to the microphone and ask you for outpatient treatment in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Okay, the item was moved to the September. Next is the item number 9, direct staff to develop for the board's consideration a memorandum of understanding with Sam Sarah to reduce unfunded pension liabilities by using one-time sources such as reserves and excess ERAP.
Mr. President and members of the board, this item was initially discussed, or the issue raised, I should say, by Supervisor Pine when we originally started the Measure A discussions, and the board thought this was a worthy idea, but perhaps one not to be funded with Measure A. Based on those directions, my staff, Mr. Adler, Mr. Bailey, and the Retirement Board, Mr. Barber from Supervisor Pine's office have been working on the proposal that you have before you today. We've had an actuarial study done. If Supervisor Pine complimented us on the clarity of the previous proposal, I liken this one to how many actuaries can dance on the head of a pin proposal, to which there's no answer. But I think the proposal is a strong one before you today, and I think it's a necessary one. As you know, we have made significant progress in the last 2 years in reducing our unfunded liability. We're now funded at about 72%, but a great deal more work needs to be done to repair the damage that was done by the Great Recession in 2008, 2009. We're on a track over a period of 15 years to be 100% funded if all of our actuarial assumptions are realized. This proposal would expedite that, and I think it's one that is prudent in the best interest of the residents of the county. There are several different options that are proposed for you. Essentially, the structure is a one-time funding of $50 million from reserves that would go into a specific account in the retirement system, followed by $10 million a year over the next 9 years. Option 5, which I think is the strongest option, if implemented, would result in 10 years in a reduction of the county's ongoing annual contributions to the retirement system by about $13 million a year. That coincides, of course, with the end of Measure A. And if Measure A is not renewed, the county certainly will need to find ways to either offset costs or raise additional revenues. And this is certainly a means of offsetting some of the costs of county government by that time, as well as expediting the retirement pickup for unfunded liability. The estimate is that, again, if all actuarial assumptions are realized, that in 7 years our system would be funded at 90%, which I think is a healthy and prudent one, and that we would save in savings for the course of the next 40 years or so about $300 million in costs for the retirement system. So I would certainly urge your support of this particular item. I would again like to thank Mr. Bailey, Mr. Sacco, and Mr. Barber, all who have labored greatly in bringing this proposal to you. I think it's a sound proposal, and I will answer any questions you may have.
Any comments?
No, I'll go ahead and move approval. I think this is very prudent, and that we talked about not doing it with Measure A, but actually some of the reserves in ERAF. I think that's an appropriate distribution.
I would second that. Supervisor Pines, you wanted to?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Some may be repeated by the county manager, but San Mateo County is very well positioned to address this challenge that's faced by all governments, which is unfunded pension liabilities. And by adopting the county manager's proposal, we can really lead the way and provide others with a model of fiscal responsibility. As the county manager mentioned, my office has spent a lot of time with the county manager, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Sacco, Mr. Adler. And this option 5, the most aggressive option, is prudent. It yields the biggest long-term benefits by paying down our unfunded pension liability more quickly. And as was mentioned, this will be significant at the expiration of Measure A. And when we have these monies freed up, instead of paying them into the pension fund, we can use them for other county services. And also, there are 3 things that I think we all lose sleep over. One is the loss of ERAF, another is some kind of subsequent economic downturn, or, one day we'll have to worry about renewing Measure A. So there's always these storm clouds out there. So by taking this move, we position ourselves to be stronger when they occur. And then, as is pointed out in the memo, the proposal gives us flexibility to alter our path if we need to. So I think this is a very sound approach. And again, I think it would be fair to hold San Mateo County out as a model for aggressively tackling this problem.
So there was a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And I'd like to thank you and your staff for working on this, as well as with the county manager.
Thank you very much, Dave.
And David Bailey as well, your staff. Thank you. Now time for board members' reports. Supervisor Groom?
I don't have a report, Mr. President.
Supervisor Pine?
No.
No. Supervisor Slocum?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to adjourn today in memory of Kirk Michael Peterson, who was the young fellow who died tragically up on Highway 280 near Woodside Road as he pulled over to assist some folks on the freeway. He was obviously a good Samaritan. He was 32 years old and a resident of Redwood City. He was a graduate of Serra High School. He was a business person. He owned Junk King in San Jose, graduate of Serra High School. And he was quite an athlete. He was a basketball player at Kenyatta College and won 2 gold medals at the Pan Am Games in Costa Rica. And he's survived by his wife, his parents, his brothers, and his very much beloved pit bull. And obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Thank you.
Supervisor Tessier.
Just a couple things. First, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Lou Paletti. As you know, he's the owner of Paletti Realty in South San Francisco. He was an active member in the chamber and other organizations. He was a very generous individual with community causes. He died at the night of August 4th, and our sympathies go out to his family. Councilmember Matsumoto called me yesterday just to let me know. I don't have a lot of other information. I just know he's incredibly active, but I did want to mention it at this meeting today. The other two quick announcements. The 26th Annual Seniors on the Move Conference will be Monday, November 4th. As you know, that's a gathering of over 500 seniors in our community that are entertained and also given information about different areas of longevity in life. It's going to be held at our county event center this year, and we're also looking for exhibitors who love to show their wares and help with information for our seniors. Also, our next older driver safety seminar is in Belmont on August 27th at the Twin Pines Community Center from 9:30 to 12:30. And we have other ones coming up in September in Redwood City, September 19th at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center in Redwood City, and then also on October 17th at the San Mateo Senior Center on Alameda de las Pulgas. So feel free to call if anybody would like more information.
I just adjourn in memory of there was a Sergeant Joseph David Steinberg. Myself and Supervisor Slocum went to this ceremony, and this sergeant, he actually served in World War II and then later was called back in the Korean War. He was a Bay Area native, and in any case, he's in the second year of the Korean War, which went from 1951 to 1953, he was captured. Actually, he was in an artillery unit, and he kept on going back and forth, and eventually was captured by the North Koreans. And in any case, he was held as prisoner of war in really horrible, terrible conditions, and he ended up dying of malnutrition in a North Korean prisoner of war camp and disappeared. In about 1991, the North Korean government sent the bones of a number of those Korean War vets who were in the prisoner of war camp and died, and they gave them over to the Allied forces. Most of the Allied forces, by the way, about 88 to 90% were all American troops. And the total war, the cost about 2.3 million lives, but not all American lives, but nevertheless. In any case, they weren't able to identify the bones until current DNA analysis, and they were able to identify Joseph David Steinberg, and they did it through, sort of unfortunately to his one of his aunts who passed away and wasn't able to see the return. So it was really a beautiful ceremony that the Army had at Golden Gate National Cemetery here in San Bruno. Both myself and Supervisor Slocum went to be part of that ceremony. It's very touching, a great family, and we basically said, "Welcome home, soldier." He finally came home after some 50 years. At last, Martin Fox.
Thank you for your service to the residents of San Mateo County. Please adjourn in memory of Edgar Aristando, who died in Burlingame 3 years ago this month, and the 12 people who died in Aurora, Colorado a year ago last month when a person living with serious mental illness, schizophrenia, opened fire on a movie audience. Laura's Law is a rational response to Burlingame and Aurora and similar events in Michigan, Texas, Connecticut, Santa Cruz, and Santa Monica, because it produces positive outcomes by creating a treatment compliance behavioral situation, and it is certified to be effective, efficient, and economical by the United States Department of Justice. Persons living with mental illness will not change how they are perceived until they change how they behave. Please provide persons living with mental illness who do not understand their need to seek treatment voluntarily with the opportunity to change how they behave based on all of the facts and a clear understanding of the disaster that we're living with, called the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act. No one's rights are protected by a law which incarcerates a person living with mental illness who does not understand their need to seek treatment voluntarily one day, and then frees them to walk the streets the next day. Thank you.
I have one more adjourned memory of, and this is Michael Vosberg Casey. He was 39 years of age. He passed away Wednesday, July 31, 2013, of colon cancer. He was born and raised in California, specifically San Mateo County. And he was a resident of Atlanta for the last 14 years. He is survived by his wife, Amy, daughter, Elena, parents, Tom and Betty Casey. Tom, of course, was our former county council. His brother, Dan, sister, Beth, and a host of friends and companions on a journey towards justice. And one story I remember is that Michael was a peace advocate, and I remember he once he demonstrated in front of, it was a weapons storage place of some sort, and I don't remember exactly what kind of a facility it was, but he was demonstrating against, I think it was against a war, and he called his dad, and he said, "Would you come and get me?" And his dad didn't know he was in jail, and so Tom went and got him out of jail. He was committed to peace and justice all his life. He was really a committed person. Funeral mass will be celebrated at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church at 25 Boulevard Northeast, Atlanta, on Monday, August the 5th. And a memorial service and celebration will be held on October 5th, 2013 at the Open Door Community again in Atlanta. The family requests no flowers, but Tom and Betty left their home in San Mateo County, went back to Atlanta for, I think, the past year to take care of him. So, it's a terrible loss to lose a child, and we are all very sad to hear about this. So we'll now adjourn to closed session.
You're on.
Well, good afternoon. We're back from closed session. Mr. Thompson, could you report on the outcome of closed session?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mr. President. There was one item report out of the closed session, and that is a settlement was agreed to in the Garrick Louis versus County of San Mateo action to settle tax year values for 2008 through 2012 with a refund payment of $46,212.92 plus interest. And that's the only reportable action out of closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We will now adjourn.